The Hyundai Santa Fe really impressed me at launch. This hybrid 7-seater is very family friendly, and now it's adventure friendly as well. You can get it with this XRT package now as an accessory available from your Hyundai dealership. And I'm going to tell you whether it makes this thing better or worse, and whether it's worth the money, and also the best alternatives that you might want to consider if you are looking for an adventure focused 7-seat model. So let's get to it. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe and ring the bell. Let's check out the XRT. Shall we? There are two different versions of the XRT package available in Australia. This is a result of a co-development between Hyundai North America and Hyundai Australia to make something a bit more hardcore for our markets. And so here we are with the XRT model. And yes, you can apply it to any version of the Santa Fe. There's two different grades, as I said. The entry-level one is called XRT Adventure, and that gets you a few features that will really stand it out from the pack, including 17-inch black alloy wheels with Pirelli Scorpion all-terrain tyres. There's also a 30mm suspension lift, including new springs, dampers and hubs, and not to mention these XRT branded mud flaps. Plus there's also an underbody skid protection plate. All of that is about $7,000. But if you spend up to the XRT Peak pack, you get a few extra features, including these weather shields that run across the tops of the windows. There's also a bonnet protector fitted, all in that dark black finish. And you also get this rooftop platform with those crossbars included as well. All of it will be fitted for you at the Hyundai dealership. If you buy it brand new with your brand new Hyundai Santa Fe, it also gets the same level of warranty cover, 5 years and unlimited kilometers. Now, the brand has also stipulated that there are two options that you can basically choose from when it comes to tire size for this package. You'll see the details for those on your screen. And honestly, it's kind of cool that you can apply this to any version of the Hyundai Santa Fe. Now, if you need a refresher, this won't be a full detailed review on the Santa Fe itself. It's more about what the package adds, but you can check out my detailed review of the range in the description below, where you'll see that there's a decent array of models to choose from. It starts at $55,500 before on-road costs, up to $75,000 for the Calligraphy one, which is this top spec version here. So if you include the XRT Peak pack, you're looking at $85,000. So what else could you consider if you're thinking about spending that kind of money on an SUV like this? All right, so 85 grand. It's a fair bit of cash, but if you can spend just a little bit more, you might be able to go for something like a Land Rover Defender 110. The entry-level petrol version of that model range is about $93,000 before on-road costs. It used to be heaps cheaper, but hey, I guess demand has led to some price hikes. But it is a fantastic vehicle off-road. It's fantastic on-road as well, and I really, really like the Defender 110. I think it's one of the most comprehensively well-designed and well-executed vehicles, but maybe not as good in terms of reliability based on what I've heard anyway. And hey, if you're looking for something that's a bit cheaper than this, well, apart from maybe applying the XRT pack to one of the cheaper models, you might want to consider the GWM Tank 500. It comes as standard with a hybrid powertrain as well. There are two different versions to choose from, starting at just over $66,000 drive away. So it stacks up beautifully in terms of the value for money perspective. 3 rows of seats, a really plush interior, and it is super duper off-road capable. So if that's what you need, maybe it might be a better choice for you. And finally, there's another option that you should really check out if you're thinking 3 rows of seats and plenty of practicality and great off-road ability, the Ford Everest. It is great, and it starts at about 55 grand before on-road costs, all the way up to the mid-80s. So yeah, pretty competitive with this in terms of price. And there's a whole aftermarket of equipment that you could consider if you do want to modify it, as well as Ford's in-house accessory packages as well. So it could be a really good option for you. It's diesel powered, and while that might not necessarily be quite as efficient as a hybrid petrol, it is still a pretty efficient 4-cylinder diesel, and there's a V6 diesel as well if you want more grunt. So would you choose any of those or something else? Let me know in the comments. The Santa Fe is about 4.8 meters in length, so it's bigger than the previous one, but it's not actually huge. It looks huge with this XRT pack, I have to say, and it does sit a bit higher as well. Now, 210 millimeters of ground clearance is what you've got compared with the standard Santa Fe's 177 millimeters. Yeah, there's a bit more clearance to play with, and it obviously brings that beefed up suspension, which builds the capability over the standard versions of the Santa Fe. It's now got a 19-degree approach angle, 22-degree departure angle, and there's also a breakover angle improvement of 2 degrees, like the other angles, now 19 degrees. So it's maybe not as off-road capable looking at those specs, but it does have some of those features which I want to show you underneath the car. So yes, the dash plate underneath here, that is maybe not the most finished looking finish, but I'm sure it's going to do the job when it comes to protecting your underbody from the harshness of the Australian environment. Now, yes, those are your Pirelli Scorpion all-terrain tires. I don't really love the wheel design personally, but hey, those tires look chunky and funky, I think. Now, also, let me call out some of the other elements here. Those are your XRT mud flaps, your side steps, and yeah, your weather shields up there. This platform is a decent capability addition as well. You'll see the capacity for it on your screen now. And at the rear, it's not necessarily all that different apart from the fact that it also gets those mud flaps at the back. Now, I will show you quickly in the boot to see what kind of space you are working with. Electric tailgate, because this one's calligraphy, and just have a look. You've got a nice big matte section in here, which I think is an accessory addition, and it looks fantastic. You can see the cargo capacity number on your screen now. Just keep in mind though that underneath that matting, there is still a pair of extra seats. So that might be a nice addition for you, or you might wish that they maybe did a 5-seat version like say the Lexus GX Overtrail or even the Ford Everest entry-level model. But look, I think that there's practicality in abundance with this car. Okay, so what impressed me about the standard Santa Fe is that you do get a full-size spare wheel. Let's have a look under the body of the vehicle. Yes, that is a full size with the all-terrain tire, which is awesome to see. Now, this review won't be covering off all the interior detail stuff that you might want to know about. And if you do want to know more about the interior of the Santa Fe, make sure you watch my full comprehensive review of the entire range. You'll find a link in the description below. And hey, if you found any of this content helpful, you can always consider leaving a contribution using the super thanks button down below. And thank you for watching. Now, let's keep going with this review, shall we? There's still only the hybrid option available in the Santa Fe range at this point in time, November 2024, but there will be a turbo petrol non-hybrid coming soon as well, and it'll likely be a bit cheaper. Now, this 1.6 litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine is teamed up to an electric motor and a battery pack, and it's available with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. You'll see the outputs on your screen now. Obviously, being the XRT one, you would probably only go with it in all-wheel drive spec, but you tell me, are you strange? Would you like to see a front-wheel drive with this package applied? I think it'd still look pretty cool. Now, if you're wondering about towing capacity, I'll put some figures on your screen now, but we should really just go for a drive and see what it's like on-road, and then we'll go find some rough stuff. Now, if you saw my earlier review of the Santa Fe, you'll know that there were some safety systems that shit me about this car, and they still shit me, to be honest. The driver attention warning system is too sensitive, so if you are trying to just do something on the screen for like 2 seconds, it beeps at you to tell you, you're not paying attention, you're a shit driver. Sorry for saying shit so much, but it does annoy me, honestly. Also, the speed sign recognition system, well, you can set it up so it still recognizes the speed signs and tells you what they are, but you can also have it so that it beeps and beeps and beeps at you to tell you if you're going over speed or if the speed sign changes. Now, where I'm driving right now in the Blue Mountains where I live, there are something like 25 different speed zones as you go over the mountains. So yeah, it can get super frustrating, super fast, I have to say. But all of that aside, let's talk about the drive experience more generally in the XRT version of the Santa Fe, because honestly, it's actually pretty good. I like the feeling of the way that it drives. I like this extra sidewall squish that you get. That's part of the advantage of having super off-road focused tires. It's that you do have a bit more of a cushy feeling to the way that it handles lumps and bumps in the road surface, and honestly it does have a nice manner to it in terms of that driving characteristic. The ride is good. Sure, the suspension does have a firmness to it as well, because obviously it's designed to be able to cop some rough stuff, and so it has to be pretty sturdy feeling. But I'm really impressed generally with the ride comfort, and the tires don't affect the steering too dramatically. It is a little bit different compared to the existing version, but not dramatically badly different, I would say. It's maybe just a little bit more vague in terms of the steering responsiveness, but you get used to it really quickly, I have to say. What might take a little bit more getting used to, especially at higher speeds, is the extra noise that comes into the cabin. There is a bit more tire noise, as you would probably expect. There's also some wind noise from the roof rack system, which does get a bit frustrating at 110 k's an hour. It's not bad, it's just that the standard car is relatively silent at that kind of pace, but this car isn't. So that's worth keeping in mind. And more generally, the drive experience with the powertrain is good. But I mean, the hybrid system is designed to be both efficient and powerful. And I guess the reality here is that it's probably going to be less efficient because it has to use a bit more oomph to move those heavier wheels and tires, which have more grippiness to them. So they are basically going to make your fuel consumption go up, and so will the aerodynamic differences that this package makes to the way this vehicle cuts through the air. It's surprisingly efficient for the standard models, but the hybrid with the XRT package, maybe not quite as efficient. But now it's time to go and find some rough stuff and see how this thing handles it. All right, so in terms of the off-road capability, well, it's obviously going to be better at going off-road in low-speed situations and high-speed moments as well than a standard Santa Fe. And this tire setup and this suspension setup does make for a much more comfortable open road, rough surface tourer. There is no doubt about that. Like an overlander, like you might set up an American pickup truck for. So just going distance, going rough roading, but maybe not seriously off-roading. And I have sort of found the limitations of this vehicle by taking it on some more serious off-roady stuff, and like not super serious, I'm talking serious for a standard stock car. But yeah, it has some issues in terms of the ability here. So the clearance is the big one. Even though it is greatly improved, I've made really good use of that skid plate at the front. It has copped an absolute hiding on this track that I'm on in the Blue Mountains. And yeah, the general ground clearance situation is not terrific, I have to say. It's better than a standard car, better than a standard mid-size SUV or 7-seater for a family for sure, but it's just not as good as like a ute-based SUV, one of those more hardcore 4x4 offerings. This just can't match it, unfortunately. I mean, it really depends on what your intent is with a vehicle like this. If you are just buying it because it looks cool, I'd understand that. If you're buying it because you will actually go camping with your family and, you know, encounter some rougher trails here and there, yeah, cool as well. But even over some of the more hardcore uphill stretches, I noticed that, well, it did cock a wheel. The articulation is not fantastic, so the axle won't droop down to try and give you more traction. It's just not that kind of vehicle. But it's also been pretty impressive in terms of the traction control system. There are a few different drive modes that you can choose with this vehicle. There's mud, there's sand, and there's snow. I've been using a mixture of mud and sand, mainly mud, but what I also appreciate about it is that the technology does make it easier to drive this vehicle off-road than it otherwise would be, because you've got the traction control system basically apportioning the torque where it needs to go when you are driving in those more treacherous situations. But also it's got a surround view camera system in this high grade version, and that means that you can basically see what's going on in front of the wheels before you get to what the wheels or tires are going to touch. So that does make a difference. It does make it more off-road friendly, but I wouldn't say that it's a serious off-roader based on my experience today. But I do think that For someone who's looking for a rougher, tougher ombre than a standard Santa Fe, yeah, I think you'll be happy, but it just needs to be mentioned that this is not a serious 4x4. Not, although it got over that pretty well. We're crossed up here, yep. And it's getting across that sort of stuff pretty well. And I haven't, well, touch wood, haven't damaged anything yet. Those tires really are helping me out though, to an extensive degree. They are basically a nice patch on the surface to give me a lot more confidence, because I'm not as confident in this vehicle as I would be in a Ford Everest or one of those other rivals that you might consider if you're looking at a ute-based SUV. All right, I'm not even going to attempt this more hardcore section. Just have a look at this. It is probably, definitely for actual modified 4x4s. This is not going to clear it in any particular way of comfort or damage free. So I'm not going to go down there. Okay, I think I found the limits of this vehicle with this review. It is not a serious 4x4. It is a more capable all-wheel drive SUV than some of the others that you might consider, and this ground clearance does make a bit of a difference. So do those tires, and so does the suspension. But I would say it's more of a touring mate, or maybe an overlander, rather than a serious 4x4, but you probably knew that already. So would you pick the Hyundai Santa Fe XRT, or is it a bit too soft? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section below. This, one of the alternatives, or something completely different? Let me know, and if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Now I've got to get out of here. Thanks for watching. See ya.